Public comments are open. If anyone would like to come to the podium in the chamber, or if you're online, raise your hands. No? Okay. All right. I'll close public comments. All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have items 5A through 5F. I know we'd like to pull 5D. Are there any directors that would like to pull other items? Anyone in the public who would like to pull an item from the consent agenda? Okay, we'll come back. Let's go ahead and address 5D.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. At this time, I'd like to enter in some comments and reflection on the transit bus that we're going to purchase. We did not include in our background the other vendors that we looked into.
That's
Oh, it's 5D. 5D.
5D.
Yes.
D's and dog.
So 5D.
5D.
We're looking at the 13 passenger transit bus that we're going to be procuring. And those items left out of the board packet report of the other vendors that we also looked into. It was recommended by our legal counsel that we enter this into the discussion. We are using Davy Coach of Norwalk, California, but we also looked at A to Z Bus Sales, Ritchie Brothers, and Creative Bus Solutions as well as other vendors that we were looking at. The requirements for this van was high headroom, enough room capacity for 13 passengers, easy access to the rear seating, large windows, that it be a non-CDL vehicle, so any commercial or regular endorsement Class C could drive the vehicle, rear doors for storage, and stay within our budget of $100,000. We've done so, and thus far would like to move item 5D forward. Thank you.
Now, with that additional information, then that would be in the record, and that will then satisfy our purchasing policy. It'll be made clear in the record of this. So we could approve it at this time. The board could approve it at this time if it wishes.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions from the directors on this item? No. Any questions from the public? Comments? No. Any back? Okay, let's, I'll take a motion on all of the items 5A through 5F.
Make a motion.
I'll second. All right, great. Motion made by Dr. Barber and seconded by Ruth Askew. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, moving on to recognition and presentations. 6A is the 15-year service award for Vice Chair Bruce Delgado. When I saw this on the agenda, I thought, wow, he's been there for 15 years. This is great. I'm really happy that ReGen is going to be recognizing you, Mayor Delgado. You are someone who we know cares deeply for this earth. And you show that in your behaviors every day. Every day. You've picked up more trash collectively than all of us. You are inquisitive, you are passionate, and I deeply appreciate your participation in this board. I know over the years, over those 15 years, you've been chair, you've helped out on the personnel committee, and every day you show up. And you show your dedication and such heart. So thank you very much for your 15 years. Absolutely.
Mayor Delgado and his work. We had an opportunity to discuss this among leadership, and Guy had the most tenure here, the most interactions with Mayor Delgado. So we selected Guy to do our best characterization of Mayor Delgado and his participation on this board.
Plus, he and I think the same. We're both like engineer thoughtful people.
Good morning, Director Shirley, members of the board. What was the short straw? Just joking there. It's my pleasure to recognize Director Delgado, Mayor Delgado of Marina, on his 15-year service award here with ReGen Monterey. Quite a pleasure to have spent all of my time with Director Delgado on the board, and speaking for staff, we've certainly been receptive and also intrigued at times, and other times pleased, quite frankly, to have Mayor Delgado's input to the board. You may not know that Mayor Delgado graduated in 1990 from Humboldt State University, Bachelor of Science in Wildlife Management. And not only that, he was recognized as the Senior Man of the Year at Humboldt State for his activities in promoting and coordinating recycling in the area and adjacent areas. So just one of the early evidences of Mayor Delgado's conscious and spirit shining, through what he does. He moved to Marina in 1996 and has been an active member of the Marina community. And he brings that same energy here to the ReGen Monterey board. And that's what staff's always excites staff, and has fit well with the other board directors, and really contributed to the nature of ReGen Monterey. Its service in the community is long now in Marina. 1996, he took up residence. He was on the council from 2000 to 2004. He's been elected mayor and reelected since 2008. And there's certainly many reasons for that reelection because of his activity in the community. In addition to serving Marina, he is a president of Chuckhagen Conservation Fund since 2003. So managing funds for conservation purposes, which has definitely been an increasing level of presence in American life, and earns a lot of benefits for many people. It's not a selfish act at all. Been treasurer with the Marina Farmers Market since 2004, and served on and continues to serve on other boards. So Mayor Delgado's really represented a care for the ReGen employee here. He's certainly advocated for them at times, and he's certainly continue to support them when staff brings forward employees benefits and related matters. So we really appreciate his advocacy for the individual worker and the collective organization here. In addition, he has had a conscience that in a palpable spirit that he conveys, and it brings that to the organization as well. So it's my honor to present you with the 15-year service award gift. We might be setting some precedents here, so maybe you can come down and join me. This is not something that I'm aware of. That's been done before, but you do have
All recycled paper.
Yeah, exactly. Congratulations.
We do have a ReGen branded bag that can be used for many purposes.
Wow, very nice.
Golden. As you may know, Mayor Delgado's been active in the marina community, and maintaining beautification of the community is one of those things. And we here at ReGen assist him in the areas north of the community, and we enjoy that collaboration, and we certainly share the goal of keeping communities beautiful, and keeping waste and recycling materials in the stream, the collection stream, nowhere else. So congratulations.
Oh my God, that's perfect.
Yeah.
No, you do kind of slow you down because.
Oh my God.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome. Eric, do you want to
Yes,
take a picture here?
Yes.
Hold on, Bruce.
One more.
Hold on. He needs the picture with that.
Gotta know why you're picking up trash.
Take one more without. This was, it was, no, it's in the packet. This was the piece of. Thank you.
Speak to the rest of it.
Right.
Some things are more important, apparently. All right. All right, we'll move on to 6B, which is the recognition of materials recovery facility operator, Geneva Presquez, for 20 years of service.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. At this time, we'll have David Salcido, the materials recycling facility manager, and Geneva come to the podium for the award. I have some comments as well. I'd like to just add up front is Geneva has been here for 20 years, demonstrates great character. Also, she drives heavy equipment operator, which is usually has been dominated by males operating these equipment. So she is one of a few women that operate heavy equipment, and she's participated in our presentations of heavy equipment operators, demonstrating their capacity to the rest of the crew. She participated. I think she came in like a 3rd or 4th place. Excellent skills, delivers a good quality of work, but also represents the changes that ReGen and the nation is looking for. And that's an opportunity for everybody, regardless of ethnicity and also gender, and giving everybody the same opportunity. So we're really proud to have Geneva on our team, and we're excited to present her with her 20-year award of service. Mr. David?
Yeah, that's Felipe stated. Good morning. So Geneva started as a laborer, and about 2 years after she moved up to an operator. She started working on the forklift and eventually moving up to loaders and excavators, and is currently loading our single stream line with up to 200 tons per day, and managing our C&D piles of over 300 tons that come in on a daily basis. As Felipe stated, she operates a 966 loader, which in comparison to a Honda or a Camry is like 3,200 pounds. The 966 loader is over 50,000 pounds. In addition to being a great operator, Geneva is also a very talented artist and has helped our MRF department with some wins and bragging rights and in regions. Very, very intense internal competitions. So I'm not gonna state which ones, but there have been a few. And none of them would have been possible without Geneva. So on behalf of ReGen, I'd like to congratulate Geneva on 20 years of service and thank her for all her hard work and dedication.
Geneva, would you like to say a few words?
Oh, thank you, I appreciate it. Like, do I go down to there?
Oh, right.
Hey Geneva, have you ever run the only baler that we've got?
No, but I push material into it.
Thank you. Eva, thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
Right. You know, I failed I'm recognizing that I didn't take a moment after 6A. Or is there anyone else who would like to say anything about Mayor Delgado? Sorry, I felt like I rushed through that. We good? We're good. Okay. All right, let's move on to 7A. Authorized chair to cast vote for one candidate for special district regular member seat on the local agency formation commission, LAFCO of Monterey County.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. At this time, we'd like to take into consideration, we have two candidates that are casting their name for a ballot. We have two candidates that have been identified for this position that have been rendered to the chair. At this time, we would like to open it up for discussion so that we could talk about the two candidates and what they're bringing. First candidate is Chad Lindy. He comes from the Chular area, or what the southern region of Monterey County area. And then we also have an additional candidate that submitted his name as well, Russell Jeffries. And he currently sits on a special district at the Moss Landing Marine Harbor. At this time, I'll hand it back over to the chair for opportunity to discuss the two candidates. In the packet, you do have the information and the request for nomination or the vote from this board to be carried over into the LAFCO Board of Commissioners in the future.
Thank you. I just want to point out that Mr. Lindley's application his last page was missing from the packet, so we were all given that. Does anyone have any thoughts, comments on this item? Yes.
Of the two candidates, I only know Russ Jeffries. Him and I served for 6 years on the Regional Water Quality Control Board. And he was always there. He was always asking questions. Yeah, former mayor of Salinas, I believe. Anyway, he's a really reliable person, and he did well on that board.
And I'll just add, I sit on LAFCO, and there are a number of just very big issues that have been coming before the LAFCO board for consideration and action. I think one of the things that wasn't written in the application, but that my understanding is that there is an intent to maintain sort of geographic balance and balance of interest when we're making our selection. So one thing to consider as we look at the application. And I will also just say that I've had the opportunity to meet or to communicate, to talk to Russ Jeffries, and he is interested in the position and expressed a desire to serve and to represent sort of the broader interests of bring his expertise on some of the water issues that are going to continue to play out. So, yeah,
good. Any other comments or thoughts on this? I appreciated Mr. Jeffrey's application. He was very thorough. submitting information on his resume. We also got a letter of support for him as well. So I'm in favor of voting for Mr. Jeffries. Rob, do we need a motion and a vote, or do we just need consensus?
Just for the record, it'd be best if we had a motion and authorize the vote.
Okay, so
I'd like to move that we nominate Mr. Jeffries.
okay.
So
Yes,
what happens is, are you gonna, can we nominate both people? Just one?
it's just one.
So
I believe it's just
We
one.
vote for one.
We vote for
Yeah.
one.
So they've self-nominated into there's a vacancy, there was a call for a nomination. These are the two people who've been nominated or self-nominated, and now we're voting for one of the two.
So all of the special districts will be voting.
can I make a nomination?
Well,
Or
I
Mr.
believe that Director Ferlito has motioned for.
But you
Mr.
can only
Jeffries.
have one nomination. I just wonder how it works here.
Yes, just one.
First one talks, gets the nomination.
Well, you
We can make a
could
substitute motion.
submit a substitute motion.
I'd like to submit a substitute motion
Okay. Do we have a,
for Mr. Lindley.
okay.
No,
I-
I don't know how.
So I'm gonna look for a second.
On either, right?
No, on the substitute
Oh, okay.
motion.
I seconded the first motion. I think.
Okay, well, let's go with the substitute motion. Do we have a second for this? Okay, it doesn't look like we have a second, Director McKee, so then that motion dies. So I'm gonna go back to the original motion, which Director Ferlito motioned for, Russell Jeffries. I think Mr. Delgado would like to, Mayor Delgado would like to second that. Yes,
I just have a question how it works. If the first motion had a second and the second motion had a second, would there be both people, and then you would vote? It would be 5-4 or 6-3 or whatever.
All right.
Thank
you. You would vote on both. If you have both of them nominated by members of this board, you just vote all in favor of this candidate. How many vote all in favor of this candidate, and that would then decide.
yeah.
Thank you.
But okay. So the only motion that we have a second is with Mr. Jeffries. So I'd like to take this out for public comment. Do we have any public comment on this? Okay, so I'll bring it back. So we do have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion on this? All right, I'll call for a vote. So all those in favor of the nomination of Russell Jeffries for the LAFCO board.
And just to clarify, so we're authorizing our chair to cast a vote for Russell Jeffries for the special districts.
Yes.
Is that the clarified motion? Okay.
Yes. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you.
Just again, question that we only have 7 people at the table today. Are the other 2 people voting or online or?
They are not here, so and since we do have a quorum, so this is the
Just a 7. Thank
it's
you.
just a 7. All right. All right, thank you. We'll move on to staff reports, 8A review finance, operating and recycling reports.
Thank you, Chair. At this time, we have Garth Braxton, Finance Manager. Our normal report.
Morning, board members.
Morning. Morning.
Not used to being up here this early, but
I know.
anyways, we're 2/3 of the way through fiscal 2024. In general, things are looking pretty good. Our tip fee revenue continues to be doing quite well. We are about 26.2 million. We're pretty much right on budget for the year. Our other revenue, the various categories there, power revenue is still down below plan and down below last year. The primary reasons for that is we've had more repairs and maintenance going on with the power generating equipment. And also too, because there's been more power interruptions from PG&E, that impacts our ability to generate power. When PG&E is down, we can't generate power. And that has, there was actually quite a number of days in February that happened. So we were not seeing a very good month there. Overall, total revenue is about 35 million. We are about 2.5% above plan. And the positive side of that is the MRF revenue continues to be strong. We're above budget by about 1.8 million. We're about 700K over last year. And that's largely just due to the impact of commodity prices being higher in fiscal 24 than they were last year. Operating expenses are about 30 million. We're about 2 million or 7% over budget. The biggest factors there are environmental services, which includes our taxes that we pay to the county and the state. And our other big item there is the recycling services, which is the biggest part of that is the material that we send to Keith Day, all of the organic material that he processes. And then we've also had an unusual event this year when, as we know, the baler at the MRF was down. And so we had to send material off site for a period of time, and that cost us about $475,000, which is sort of a one-off expense. Net income for the year, we're about 5.1 million. We're about 10% below plan. And we're about 1.6 million lower than we were in the same period last year. In terms of material received, we're about 440,000 tons. We're about 19 or 20,000 tons higher than what we were in the same 7-month or 8-month period last year. And in terms of the MRF diversion activity, our total diversion rate for the MRF year to date is about 50%, and we're down from about 63% last year. Any questions? I'll be happy to take them at this time.
Garth, can you expand on that last statement that you just made about our diversion rate being down in comparison to previous?
Well, it's basically we look at it in two different components. We look at the C&D diversion and the single stream diversion. And actually our diversion rate for the entire MRF is actually 60.4%. So we're down slightly from last year, and that's largely because of our combination of both. It's the single stream and the biggest one is the single stream diversion rate is down from what we were last year. Last year we were about 67%, and this year we're about 63%. And there's not really any specific reasons for that other than it's just, the quantity and quality of the material that comes through the system. So we're able to divert as much as we can.
May I ask a question on that? Is that because, could it have anything to do with contamination of what's coming through?
That would definitely be part of it, because when we receive the material, it comes in as, for example, single stream material. And then when it goes through the MRF process, and we extract out what is the recoverable, recyclable material, then there is a remainder. And so if there's a higher contamination rate, that's going to impact the diversion rate.
So some of our education to our communities should be to clean it up.
That would
what we're putting in the blue can, because we're actually having to process things that are dirty and contaminated, which wastes labor and doesn't bring the revenue stream. So it's really such an important part. And I go back to an argument that I've had for a long time. Our haulers are not putting the stickers on the containers until they replace cans. And so people throw everything and anything in there because they're not even being shown in so many cases what is okay and what is not okay. And I know in Carmel, if you walk by the beach, most of the recycling containers are contaminated every single day. And downtown they're contaminated. And I don't think we're doing a particularly good job in our communities of teaching people how to actually recycle.
Yeah, you're right. It's a combination of some people don't really pay that much attention to us, so they don't really care that much, or some people try to think that, oh, well, this is recyclable, but when it's not. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like as we talked about sometimes, wishful recycling. We would like to think some of the stuff that goes into the single stream is recyclable when in fact it's not. and shouldn't be there in the first place. But you're right, it's an educational thing that if consumers were more aware, then maybe we would see less contamination in that area.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yes.
Oh, but it's different than this, so if yours.
Yeah, I just have one question. So if, so my household recycling, and then let's say a beachside, recycle can, both goes into the same recycling truck, and then both ends up at the MRF, right? So you wanna
I can get it.
clarify that,
As
or?
long as they're recycling containers, that's the case.
Yes, although I would say that it depends on the hauler and the route. So the routes are optimized, and so sometimes you'll have routes that are residential only, and then sometimes they will try to take routes that are commercial or multi-family routes where they have a different type of mechanism to lift the container in the truck.
Yeah.
So we do separate residential from commercial single stream recycling at our MRF tip floor. And one of the benefits of that is that you'll see more cardboard in the commercial stream. And Jay and his operations team is able to run the MRF a little bit faster, knowing that the majority of the contents there are cardboard, so they can run it at a reduced shift and run those materials a little bit faster than residential.
Nonetheless, if they're in materials placed in a recycling bin, it's picked up by a recycling route
Right,
and goes to the recycling facility.
right.
And so if it's not the right material that belongs in the recycling bin, then it's contamination and it takes away from the diversion.
And I'd like to add on Dave's behalf that he mentioned that there was a lot of wet material that was received, and so that could lead to higher contamination. So maybe some of those cardboard and paper products that would have been recyclable got wet and were thus not recyclable. So that could have led to the increased contamination.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Director Barber.
Yeah, so a quick question on the difference with the cost of employment from the 12.3 million to the 12.65 million for the budgeted, and then from last year to 11.16 million. Is that from COLA increases? What is the difference? Because the 12.35 million is right now currently, correct?
Yes, and that's the biggest negative part of that variance is salaries and wages. And that is primarily due to higher overtime costs incurred, throughout the district, but primarily in the operations area.
It was 5% last year on the COLA. We give to.
Okay. But a lot of overtime, more than what was actually.
Things like COLA increases now, we build into the budget.
Okay,
So that wouldn't really be impacting the variance, but it's more just the fact that, how much labor we've used.
but the overtime would the overtime be due to some of the maintenance pieces that you were talking about as well?
That would be part of it as well. And also too, when we have things like weather events going on here, it impacts the operations as far as the landfill and the site crew. There's more time spent in, and same with the MRF. As we just mentioned, with the fact that we've probably received, more wet material than we normally would, that increases the time that the MRF staff have to spend, going through the material and sorting it and that kind of thing.
So all of that kind of impacts each other. Okay,
Yes. Yeah.
thank you.
Mayor Pete.
Thank you for the report, as always, excellent. You mentioned that revenue was down on power generation sales because PG&E was down. So does that mean the district operations here were down at that time as well?
Well, no, just, we were not down. We have our own backup generating system, but it does impact the MRF to some extent. Like if PG&E is down, then the MRF is down.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so essentially what happens, Director, is that PG&E forces us to shut down our generation while they make repairs to any infrastructure based on that. So that is where we lose the consistency of power. Is if we have too many power shutdowns, we have to shut down our generation, thus losing our power revenue. In some instances, some periods are longer, some are short durations. If they happen in the middle of the night, we have to come back and reset our systems to start generating power again. So we lose time in between the shutdowns. So we're really battling for resiliency. We face, I would say, more monetary impacts by the resiliency piece of PG&E shutting us down. On the other hand, when we look at our neighbor across the fence that is cleaning water, that resiliency is a little bit more important. So that's why we're working on 21 kV and trying to build a structure that is a little bit more resilient than what we get with our current provider. Thank you.
Mayor Delgado.
On the contamination rate, if I don't contaminate my blue bin, I'll put that stuff properly in the waste bin. So the contamination, I don't think it reduces our diversion rate because it was going to go to the landfill anyway, right? It just increases our costs.
Well, no, well, the diversion rate is calculated, looking strictly at that material stream. So, we look at single stream on its own. So the material you put in your waste bin, that doesn't count as part of the diversion calculation.
Right, but if I put wet cardboard in my blue bin instead of the waste bin, and you pull it out, it still goes to the landfill. So it hasn't affected the diversion rate.
Well, it has to the extent that when it's received here, before it goes through the MRF, we're thinking that it is single stream.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
100% across the scale.
Yep.
So the tag says 100 pounds, and then we process it, may be 80 pounds after. That's where we use some of that material.
But it would have been properly disposed. It would have been 80 pounds to begin with. So it really didn't affect the bottom line, except temporarily because we thought we had more than
We
we
found, yeah, right. We
Okay.
thought we had more divertible material than we actually did.
Okay, my other question is that, maybe you touched on it, but our operating expenses so far are 2 million more than budgeted and 3 million more than last year. What's the main reason? Is it the MRF?
Well, no, it's not just the MRF. It's a combination of some of our environmental and recycling costs. The biggest items are the recycling costs, which is the material, primarily the material that Keith A process, I call the organic material that he gets and processes, into compost or wood chip related products. And then there's also our environmental costs, which has to do a lot with our landfill gas, field maintenance and upkeep. And the costs in both of those areas have been higher this year than we budgeted and higher than last year. And as I mentioned, in the recycling, the biggest item there is, we spent, nearly $500,000 sending material off-site when our MRF baler was out of commission.
Okay, and I'm sorry you covered that earlier. Thank you. Okay.
That 500,000 essentially, is that money that we spent to, and then there's also a loss there because we're not able to maximize on that material or sell that material, right?
You're right. There's a two-prong effect there. First of all, the $475,000, that's cash out of our pocket. We
Right.
paid that cash to somebody. And then also too, yes, we did not get any benefit of any recoverable material that was there that we could have sold
Right.
On the commodity market.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there a youth, education program? And are they like in elementary schools and things like that? And do you do an outreach to the community as well with the youth,
Yes,
kind of
yes.
making it fun? Okay.
We have a school program for all of the Monterey Peninsula, and Salinas Valley Recycles does the same on the eastern half of Monterey County, where we have a staff member that goes to the schools. They're primarily right now focused on SB 1383 implementation, so separating the food scraps. There's not a lot of recyclables that are generated at the schools, but we do divert recyclables and organic materials such as food scraps, and we teach them, where each item that they have goes in the waste stream. And that's done in conjunction with the hauler in the service area, typically Waste Management, but there are others depending on which school, so we're helping them with that.
So I was just thinking more of a community outreach where like families could come and it would be like a fun day. And they could be able to show and teach them, because sometimes that doesn't come back to the families. And then even what the kids learn, it's not utilized because the parents aren't understanding it or caring about it. So I was just thinking about it more of like a family type of fun day, but making it fun, kind of where the youth learn it. Because then when you have the whole family to be learning it, then the kids kind of be like, don't forget, mom, you gotta put that in there. Don't forget that. Nope, that doesn't go in there. You know, that kind of thing. That's just kind of like my thought.
That would be great, and certainly to the extent we're invited to, like outreach events, like family nights and that sort of thing, we would have our schools representative attend. Something we could look into more, because I think it's a great idea. The approach is to teach the children and have them bring that information home, and with the waste sorting in the household as being the experts. And Eric actually just attended a classroom presentation recently, and he was surprised by how old were they, first graders? First graders. I think they might have done a better job than a lot of our outreach events to the public, where you have adults. So, yeah, sometimes these children just have a lot of really great knowledge already in them, and we expect them to do great things. But that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
But can I add that, like Earth Day, Earth Month, next month, we go to many community events as well, where kids are, like Marina, Earth Day, has a lot of families come there. We'll be in Carmel, Seaside, we'll be at Good Old Days, so we try and go to where families are too, and we get a lot of engagement there. With it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
Sorting games.
Yeah.
Sorry, I failed it.
And we give out reusable bags and compost buckets.
Just as part of this discussion, diversion means what we don't put in the landfill.
Yeah.
All right, so that's important because people think, okay, just getting rid of it is diversion, but it's not. It's
Diverted from the house.
what we divert to other places, other uses versus what goes in the landfill. And I think sometimes I'm a kind of a geek about this, but I look when I travel at other areas, what they have on their trash bins and so on, and sometimes I think we're a little too subtle. People need to know that trash is going to go into the landfill. And, you know, I think that when we clear up educational things, it has to be clear to people that, you know, what's going where and why. Because some people just want to push it off.
Thank
like
you.
We did for years.
Thank you, Director. Does anyone else have any questions for Garth about finances? No? Okay. Thank you, Garth. All right, we'll move on to 8B, report on the Technical Advisory Committee.
Morning, Chair.
Director Schultz.
Thank you. Morning, Chair, members of the board. I'll be reporting on the February 21st meeting of our Technical Advisory Committee. This was a short meeting. We had two topics that we covered. The first one was a follow-up on a topic we brought in January, and so I shared a little bit with you that the state has implemented SB 1013, which expands the definition of recyclable items to include wine and distilled spirits, and also some juice beverages containers. What that particular law did was add some kind of traditionally non-recyclable items, such as bag-in-box and pouch style wine and distilled spirits. Those type of things wouldn't traditionally be the types of materials that we would recycle in our MRF, but they are included in the CRV law, likely for equity reasons in packaging. And so our challenge was how to educate the public. And so the TAC had discussed that initially in January. We brought this item back because we had an update from CalRecycle. We had inquired as to if we were mandated to educate as such that these items are recyclable. And we found out that we are not mandated to educate that bag-in-box or pouch style containers are recyclable. So the approach that our region has decided to take is to accept those items in the blue cart, but there's no end market for any of those materials currently. And so there's not really a way to actually recycle them. So we will not be educating now to receive additional items that we intend to landfill eventually. So until there is that end market and, you know, there are enough materials to be able to create bales to ship off and they're actually recycled, we'll be utilizing CalRecycle has a notice of disposal form.
So we'll be utilizing that notice of disposal, anytime those items are brought into, the MRF, we'll be disposing of them and letting Cal Recycle know. So we hope that that'll reduce what could have been a really confusing implementation. And when we get there, then we can start educating about that. The next item that we brought forward to the TAC was notifying the haulers and also jurisdiction staff of the proposed rate increase for ReGen Monterey MSW, the municipal solid waste, excuse me. That item had come before your board as just a preliminary notification that the intent was to increase the MSW rate from $70 to $77 a ton. We inform the haulers at this point so they can start calculating for potential rate increases in July. But of course, it's up to your board to ultimately decide if that's going to be approved or if there's going to be modifications to that. So we will inform the TAC at that time if there are any changes to that rate. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Now, I have a question. I'm a little unclear. So there's no end market for wine bottles?
No, sorry, there is an end market for wine bottles and we do recycle wine bottles.
And spirit bottles?
Correct, correct.
Not the wine in a box?
Correct.
Or the, okay.
Yeah, bag in a box or like pouch style, think almost like a Capri Sun style pouch with a lid, like that sort of thing was included in CRV with this piece of legislation.
So why wouldn't we want to let people know they can recycle wine and spirit bottles?
We will be accepting glass as we always have. That's not really a change for us. So people generally throw their glass. Glass is a fairly known recyclable material.
Okay.
It traditionally hasn't been a CRV material, meaning there's not a redemption in the past. Prior to this law, there wasn't a redemption associated, so you couldn't take your wine bottle and get your 5 or 10 cents back for that. But we've always recycled those materials, and actually we've always received CRV value from those materials because by the time they're crushed with other beverage containers, say like a soda bottle or something like that, it's all glass to the end market and all glass to Cal Recycle.
Okay. I was a little confused.
Yeah.
On that part.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks for allowing me to clarify.
Mayor Delgado.
Thank you, Zoe. The tonnage cost is proposed to increase about 10% from $70 a ton to 77. But the overall rate increase is 0.3% to 0.86, so less than 1%. So how do those two relate?
Yeah, that's a good question. The majority of a customer's bill, the 0.3 to 0.86%, the majority of that customer's bill is actually in collections costs, not in processing costs. So when you look at how you receive your bill, for example, at Green Waste from home, it's somewhere in the mid-80s percentile worth of collection costs and a much lower percentage in the teens as it relates to processing costs. So when you say we have what is less than a 5% increase here, it equates to a much smaller percent in the actual customer's bill.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Great question.
Over the years, the $70 a ton is now 77. And that's 10% there. Historically, what have we averaged over the last 10, 20 years?
I should probably defer this question to either the general manager or the finance manager.
Actually, it's not from 70 to 77, it's from 74 to 77.
Oh, excuse me, sorry.
Number. And that's the gate rate. So the percentage that we applied to this year was just a little bit less than 5%. If we applied the full 5% to that gate rate, it would have went to just under 78. So we rounded downwards and chose a smaller numerator.
Historically, have we averaged 4 or 5% or 10%, or is it some years 0?
You know, my 3 years here have been 7%, 5%, 5%. That's what I can speak to. Historically, there's been a hold in the past. You know, you can go back a decade and there was a request to hold on gate rate increases. But my 3 years term here, I proposed an increase at the gate rate to sustain increase in compensations and what we have designed and planned. So there's always been, I think, a need to increase the gate rate when we have the ability to do so.
Any further questions? Thank you, Zoe. Appreciate it. Okay, I don't believe we have other correspondence, so we'll move on to general manager communications.
Thank you, Chair. A few things. We conducted our second leadership training course of the year. This is on critical conversations. This is just helping the teams engage in very difficult discussions, creating engagement and not losing relationships along the way while you hold accountability. So this has been good for our team. That means throughout the whole organization, we're all learning how to be better leaders. I also wanted to thank this board for attending the board workshop that we had on March 6th. We appreciate the feedback and the partnering to see the pathways that we can take as we enter into our budget process and that we can see over a longer term period of time. So the board workshop was very informational, giving us a foundation of who we are here at ReGen, the operations that we run, and giving enough context so that we can make good decisions here on this board. Also participated on a webinar titled From Landfill to Dreamland, Revolutionizing Organic Waste Management. It was a processing waste webinar given by Econword, and they are a firm that is processing trash on the front end. It gives me hope that we can extend our landfill life in the future with technology. They gave a short presentation, but essentially they took 200 tons a day that was destined for landfill, processed 200 tons, and wind up only landfilling 100 tons of that material. The other 100 wound up being organic. So as we encroach on landfill space and have these discussions, I think we always look 100 years of landfill space, and is it more than, is it less than that? And with technologies like this, it shows us in a very favorable position with technology coming on the cusp to reduce what winds up in the landfill at some point when we can afford it, when we can take the trek. But we're starting to see more of it come to market, and so we'll continue to evaluate those and bring that back. I just thought it was very interesting on how they're processing the material using technology, and less is winding up in the landfill, and we can reuse more of it. And essentially that's been our goal here for some time. I want to thank Jamison Pfister. ReGen staff participated in the panel of business infrastructure at CSUMB. Dr. Fernandez is a professor out there. He invites us annually, and this year Jamison Pfister filled in that role, and we appreciate his support with all the college students. We also had a video shoot on site, and we've been working on a video commercial for battery risk and prevention of fires. So we're excited to report that we did have a full days of video shoot. I'd like to thank Zoe and Eric. Eric got some folks out here, and we did video shoot throughout the organization throughout the whole day. And we feel very inspired what the outcome will be. We have very knowledgeable people on staff, and we hope we can get our message out into the community very soon. And once we have more information on when it'll be aired, played, a sample of what we are going to be getting, we'd be happy to share with this board. But it was very exciting for the team. And then also a good recognition across the organization that we do care about our people when they have to fight fires within our organization. So a lot of good messaging coming out of the video shoot. Thank you to the communications team. I'd like to also thank our safety team, Sally and her helper, and all the departments that supported in our fire extinguisher servicing. We service 208 fire extinguishers that are across our organization. Make sure that they're working, that they're all fueled up, and that they're ready to be used in case of an emergency. So a very successful event. It took us all day long, running to and from where fire extinguishers at, recognizing where all the fire extinguishers are located, brings greater awareness to our organization. Communications team, I'd like to thank Eric Palmer again. After hearing from the board members that they would like to see ReGen staff provide more communications or a toolkit, Eric is always creating new content for our websites and also for our social media. He was able to host during our TAC committee to other content creators what we're doing here, and step by step, kind of walking through them, how we do it. Photos, copies, how to cut and paste, newsletters alike, having access to ReGen social media content will allow for an endless amount of storytelling for other jurisdictions to share with the community as well. So very, very nice job. We do have it recorded, so if there's any other interest in seeing how we're posting our social media and communicating our messages through different avenues, we'll be happy to share that as well. We also hosted Pacific Grove Council members, Chaps Portery and Joe Emilio for a site tour, and some other team members that joined as well. I had an opportunity to sit down and probably ate up more time than was desired, about half an hour of discussion just around what we do. A lot of excitement and maybe more questions to come from those council members as well in the future. Tech members attended multiple edible food recovery. As you guys heard in the past, we gave out some grants for creating more capacity for building and feeding our community where it's needed throughout Monterey County. We attended Pajaro Valley Loaves for Fishes, St. George's, Episcopal Church, Salvation Army in Salinas, Dorothy's Place. So we're very excited that we've been able to go out and see how the grant money is being applied in many of these organizations that need it. Communications team attended Farm Day at the Monterey County Fairgrounds, where they educated third and fourth grade classrooms in proper waste sorting using cornhole style game. It's always a huge success. We'd like to thank Franco and Eric for taking the lead on that. We also hosted the new WM district manager, Ray Amaro, and route manager, Jerry Arias, to a site tour facility observation. And I have one last item, which is a reminder for board members to complete their Form 700s. A reminder of your 700 filings are due April 1st. And also, if there's any interest from this board to take any SDRMA classes, those help us accumulate credits for the following year. I think Helen's registered for a few already, but if you have interest in anything that you can support us to help us get credits, just send an email to Kim and I, and we'll put you on the awareness when classes come up that would support ReGen credits for our risk management team. And that's all I have.
Is there a list of classes, or is there?
There is.
Can we be notified?
Yes, yes. We'll take the people's that are interested, and then we'll provide the classes out, and they'll give you a longer view of what the opportunity is to join and help support getting the credits. Last year, we hit all our credit amount. We can only get a certain amount of credits, and achieving the full amount that we can get is always favorable for us. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
The safety team, you said you located all of the fire extinguishers. Is that right?
Well, they have to retrieve all the fire extinguishers that are set out there in our organization. There's 208 of them. So having to retrieve them and knowing awareness where they're located is very important for us.
My question is, this is a big operation with a lot of people doing dangerous things and so on. Do you have an employee training on where the IEDs are in case someone has a heart attack, or where the first aid kits are, or who you call first and so on? Because we just had a little primer on that in Carmel, and it was kind of eye-opening because I don't know how to use an IED, and now I do. The shocking thing.
We do. We have a scheduled assignment for our safety team, and that's core and critical to what we do, is awareness of all the items that we have on campus that would support life-saving and also rendering less risk along the way.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Quick question. I'm sorry. Quick question. So you talked about technology and being ready. I know I've been hearing a lot about AI, which everybody has, and attended Panetta Institute where they were doing some conversations and lectures on it. How do you see AI kind of playing into the technology piece here?
You know, so we do have invested in AI for our MRF outbound material, which is in our residuals, and it's to monitor materials that are coming across on the back end that we didn't capture in the recycling process. And so it gives us the ability to look at what we're not capturing, going back and figuring out what we can do better on a line or on a sort area. Is it more optics? Is it, depending on what we're seeing on the back end. We're just on the cusp of using AI. We're not using AI for our admin department. We're not using AI to figure anything out. Right now, it's just more of a monitoring system. When I focus on technology, I'm looking at technologies that's processing our material that we have here. What is our stream having it? And what is the need of our organization? And what I heard consistently from this one is we want to make sure that we always have some sort of landfill space. What is that lifetime and how long is it going to live? So as we're looking at what can expand the life of our landfill, do less of landfilling, more of highest and best uses of our byproducts that we create here from what we're processing for the community. Yeah.
Thank you. The workshop that you mentioned, I liked. It was a refresher plus a lot of new stuff for me. But one of the salient points come out of for me is how many contracts that we have that are going to be expiring in the next few years. And I think it would be beneficial to me and probably most of the board if we had some discussion about those contracts to make sure that we know why or why not they don't have an impact or they do have an impact on our policy decisions about extending them, what the relevance and the import of each of those contracts is. Because it was kind of overwhelming to see them all in one or two slides. I tried to mail my 700 here and there were two addresses on the website and it wasn't clear. So I just used the street address, 14,000 something Del Monte Boulevard, and then it got returned to me. So if I got it wrong, maybe the public would too. So does the mailing go here and the POB or only to the POB?
We have an expert that's been beating everybody here with a stick on, what is the appropriate use. And Guy, if you want to.
The physical address is associated with the United States Postal Service mailing service. That's their typical guide. The United States Postal Service defines physical addresses. That's just, it uses the local street name and address and combines it with a zip code. Out here in unincorporated Monterey County, there are places that do not receive mail service by the U.S. Postal Service. ReGen is one of those. So the physical address is not used for mailing. Only the post office box address is used for mailing. And that's why both are listed, because they do both exist. And yes, can be confusing because people like to use a street address to mail things, but there's only a PO box for ReGen to receive mail.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to see Eric's training on social media because it would be helpful also to nonprofits and other cities, that kind of a thing. I want to mention that there was I guess this is more board communication. I have a point on board communications when we get there, but that's all I have right now. Thank you for your summary.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the All right, we'll move on to board communications. There you go, Gato.
Yeah, I just want to mention I got an email from a mother resident in Marina about a week ago, and she said that the odors in Marina, when she went out to go on a walk with her daughter, were so strong she couldn't walk with her daughter. She said that the strongest odor she's ever smelled, and she's been here for 15 years, that morning. And so she drove to East Garrison to go to a park there because she couldn't escape the odors in Marina. So I just want to let everyone know that, that there's an impact there. And it's hard to know the impact unless you hear stories from people who are being impacted.
Yes, one. appreciate that. I hope she called in the report to Embark so that we can make sure we're tracking all of the odor complaints. We do get updates at every Embark meeting about how many calls have come in and any trends that exist. So I think the commitment that we have, or I share with you as a resident of Marina, is to make sure that we've got the data that's going to help us figure out what's going on there. But my board comment is I had the opportunity to spend the weekend at the Civic Well Conference. Last weekend, this weekend, recently. And there was some great conversation about rural challenges to the implementation of AB 1383. And so I really loved being able to talk about all the great work that we're doing here and how prepared we were to be able to, move forward with implementation. There was also quite a bit of conversation around battery technology and the what the opportunity for energy policy, what battery technology represents for the advancement of energy policy, but there was a lack of conversation around what battery technology impact is on sort of the end of life waste streams. So I think that's something that I look forward to finding the information to bring back into the conversation in the future. I also had a great opportunity to talk with one of the representatives from SMUD, who does a lot of work on policy to put responsibility on producers for the waste that they're ultimately creating. So there is some legislation that is moving forward. I know we've talked a lot about that when we did our strategic plan about, our goal. We could do personal responsibility all day long, but really we've got to put some manufacturer responsibility in place. And so if we're interested in, I think she would be a phenomenal speaker for a brief presentation to our board at some point in the future about the work that's happening, the opportunities moving forward, and some of the spaces that we could use our voice to support legislation that puts that responsibility back on manufacturers. So I'll put her in touch with you, Felipe. And then I also, on Wednesday, I was up in Sacramento and had a great conversation with Angela Curro, who's a San Benito County supervisor, who had an opportunity to tour our facility here at ReGen. She had rave reviews. She was just so impressed with the facility, with what we're doing here, with the staff here. So I want to share that feedback with the team. But also, as San Benito County thinks about what they do with the landfill property that exists there, she wanted to make sure that there was broad open communication so that if their decisions impact us and if our decisions impact them, they need to be understanding what those dynamics are. So that was just great to have that sort of offline conversation. And my final comment is I heard from someone else about the presentation that you're doing, Eric, to share best practices with other districts and with other communities so that they can learn how to communicate effectively the work they're doing through pictures. So they were really excited to learn about how you could make like a road improvement project, compelling through an image. So thank you for sharing the expertise, and thank you for making our staff available to share that content and knowledge and with the rest of the community. So yeah. Those were my comments today. Well, I'll just say, and the Civic Well Conference is every March. And it's a great gathering of local electeds who care about many of the things that we're talking about: energy policy, transportation policy, the overlap of housing policy on creating a sustainable future for our kids and grandkids. So if anyone's interested in joining me at that next year, I'll be there again, and I'd love to invite you to join me. Thanks. Ethan.
Yes,
I'd like to say that I'm glad you brought that up about the producers being responsible, and I can't think of a better target right now as batteries. If you went to the store and there was a place that you could put your old batteries as you were purchasing new batteries, and those all had to go back to the producers to dispose of properly, it would go a long way to safety features, no more, less fires and so on and so forth. So sometimes you have to remember that adage of how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And if the focus for something like that could start with batteries, I mean, we already are supposed to recycle electronics and computers and so on, but I think batteries is one that's just a no-brainer. You go, you buy, you dispose of your old ones right then, and, you know, maybe we should focus on little bits at a time of education for future legislation.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. We do not have a closed session today. That was a typo, so we can just ignore that. So at this point, I'll adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting is April 19th. So hope everyone has a great day.